So we're officially in the second half of this short series of videos, and as a brief overview of how the next 3 videos are going to go. First, in this first video of the second half, we're going to talk about strategies for improving parent-child communication. In the next video, we'll talk about discipline versus punishment, and in the final video, we will talk about parenting during the time of COVID-19, some bonding strategies for families to use, as well as how to talk to your children about the current situation. So to start off, communication is key in any form of relationship. Naturally, this definitely applies to parent-child relationships. Open, effective communication will benefit not only the child, but every member of the family, and by extension, the other people in your life and in the child's life as they grow older. Good communication skills will benefit children for their entire lives. Whether you're parenting a toddler, a preteen, a teenager, or even a fully grown adult, good communication is the key to building and maintaining trust and mutual respect. From a young age, children begin to form ideas and beliefs about themselves based on how you communicate with them. They begin to form a concept of themselves, who they are, and what they believe, as well as what the rest of the world is like. Good communication makes it easier for you to have conversations with your child about things like sex, alcohol, drugs, things that may typically be considered quote-unquote awkward. It also makes it more likely that they will trust your warnings and your instructions if they understand that you mean to protect them. And here I want to bring to you this quote. I find that it's a very good thing to keep in mind, to remember the power of a parent or a guardian or the adult guiding influence in a child's life. Mother is the name for God in the lips and hearts of little children. And of course, in this context, we don't only mean mothers as in women. This could be fathers. This could just be parent figures. The point is, you're the guiding influence in their life. As a parent or guardian, you are in a unique and powerful place to be able to shape a child's mindset, their behavior, and their ability to communicate with other people, whether that's positive or negative. Children learn how to communicate with others based on what they experience or observed from you. They then take these skills, or lack thereof, into their adult lives. So you have a profound impact on the adults of the future. Now, for some strategies, we'll go through some key strategies for positive and effective communication with your child. First, get to know how your child communicates. Some children love to chat about anything, while other children tend to be a lot more reserved and quiet. Whether your child is open or quiet, what's actually important is that they feel as though they can come to you as their parent for anything. Getting to know the way in which your child communicates can help you to understand how best to connect with them. Even if talking really isn't your child's favorite thing, just spending some quiet time with them can help to encourage them to open up when they need to. Avoid the lectures. As a parent, of course, you'll probably come across lots of moments where you'll need to make sure that your child listens and understands what you're telling them or what you're teaching them. But lecturing and nagging your child won't help you to break through to them any faster. If you feel as if you've hit a wall in a conversation, set it aside for a little bit. Think about what it is that you really want your child to understand and how your child will best hear what you have to say the next time you speak. Listen up. Being an active listener when speaking to your child is an important skill to practice. Give them your full attention during conversations. Show them that you're interested in what they have to say. This includes making eye contact, leaving distracting things like your cell phone aside from your talks. When it's your turn to speak, respond thoughtfully, not just mindlessly. Later on, you might even bring up a part of your conversation to show to your child that you remember what they said. It's also crucial that you listen for anything your child says that could be concerning to you as their parent. Maybe they're direct when speaking about their emotions, but even if they aren't, the things they do say or don't say, or the way that they say it, can give you a lot of insight into what they're truly feeling and what they're truly going through. Listen without judgment. Listen actively and never judge. Active listening means being empathetic and caring about the feelings about the story being told, behind the story being told, not necessarily the words that they're saying. It means you'll have to put in a lot more effort at times to break down walls, especially those of insecurity or indecision. That's why it's important to not use anything they've ever told you in confidence against them. No matter how angry you might be feeling, it's not okay to go and throw words that they said back in their face, or to go and say it publicly, or to say it to the co-parent or other family members to embarrass them. Parenting is challenging, and one challenge is definitely being able to open your mind and understand that children will naturally have a different way of viewing the world. They're from a different generation from you. A perspective that deserves just as much respect as your own, undoubtedly. You're going to have to acknowledge that your child is an equal, a peer, or even as a superior in certain debates as they get older. No, that does not mean that the child rules anything. It doesn't mean that they get to make all the decisions. It just means that you have to understand that in some things, they are more knowledgeable than you. And in some ways, you're going to have to trust them to teach you certain things. You're going to have to listen to them about certain topics. By not judging them, you're sending them a clear message that you want to listen. You're willing to accept them. You're willing to accept that they're sad, they're angry, they're hurt. And then when you acknowledge their emotions, you'll be able to aid them in making those important decisions. Tell positive stories. Children love to hear stories about all kinds of things. But it can be very special for a child to hear stories about their parents. As their parent, you should feel free to share stories with your child, but only share stories that serve a positive purpose. Not necessarily all positive stories per se, but that they should at least serve a positive purpose. Don't share stories with your child in such a way that might be perceived negatively or have a negative effect on their behavior rather. And be careful of who you talk about and what you say. Some stories might include unflattering or inappropriate tales about your co-parent or other adults in your child's life. Consider the child's age and their maturity level before you share any kind of story like this with them, to make sure that they'll correctly understand the point of it. Remember that with age comes a certain level of maturity and understanding and experience. All children, or at least one child at different points in their life, is not going to understand things the same way you do. Be careful the impression that you're giving them about the people around them. Talk to them about your own experiences. Communication between parents and children should be a two-way street, and it should be adjusted to the age of the child. You might find it to be very beneficial to tell them about your own experiences, both past and present. Tell them about how you feel, what you think. All of these things make you seem more human, and it knocks down that initial barrier that you sometimes project as a parent, which may give the child the impression that you're invincible and nothing can touch you and you just know all the right answers all the time and you never make mistakes. This isn't true. And it's not always good to give the child the impression that this is true. With this style of communication, your children will feel a lot closer to you, and they will learn new ways of solving problems. They'll also feel more comfortable coming to you should they make a mistake because, hey, at least mom or dad not invincible. Maybe they've gone through this before. Maybe they know what I should do. Maybe they know what's the best step to take next. That doesn't necessarily imply that they will do the same, even if you give them advice, but it will pave the way towards more openness and trust on their end. They will trust you enough to tell you about what's happening in their lives. Find the time to talk every day. You might have a tight schedule most of the time, but so might your children, with school, homework, extracurricular activities, friends, and after-school jobs, anything like that. Of course, some of these may either not be there or they may be very different in times of COVID-19, but your children may still also find it hard to make time for anything outside of their own schedule. However, there should always be a little time each day to set aside for each other. As a parent, take advantage of the seemingly trivial moments that you have with your child just to talk. This might be in the car when you drive into some kind of lesson, maybe if you're going out to eat, you're going to a park, whatever you might be able to do right now, that is. Even if it's just having some quick breakfast or at the dinner table before bed. Just a few minutes could make a huge difference to improve parent-child communication. Taking the time to consider the ways you communicate with your child now can help you improve your overall relationship. While your communication habits with your child will evolve as they grow up, practicing these skills will support the foundation of your healthy relationship well into the future. So now there's affection. It's always important to be willing to show affection to your child. This doesn't necessarily have to be in huge declarations of love and, oh my gosh, you know you're the best thing that ever happened to me, I love you so much. But rather it can be in simply saying you're proud of them or that you're there for them no matter what. Show affection in whatever way works for your particular relationship. Is it hugs, a pat on the head, words of appreciation, maybe just offering to help with homework or to spend some small amount of time together? It could even be as simple as asking their opinion on family decisions to show that your child is valued and their feelings are just as important as the adults in the household. Don't be afraid to initiate conversations on so-called uncomfortable topics. The world is changing and these topics should really no longer be considered too uncomfortable or awkward to talk about with your child. You should always be the first person that your child comes to with questions. Because if you refuse to talk about it, or if you treat it as something embarrassing, the child will go elsewhere with their questions. Don't be afraid to initiate conversations about sex, puberty, relationships, drugs, alcohol. Likewise, don't be afraid to learn about these things from your child as well, for the sake of being a more informed parent. Don't approach these things with the assumption that you are the all-knowing source of information. You're the only one who understands these things and they need to learn from you. It is possible for you to learn from them as well. Again, the world is changing. The things that you've grown up knowing to be true may have changed. Things might be different. Cultural norms might be changing already. So sometimes it's important to get that feedback from your child as well. Next, your parents first and friends second. It's important to be open when you're speaking with your children. You want to know what they like, what their interests are, but you need to remember your child needs a parent to guide them and set limits. They don't necessarily need you to be a friend. That is not your primary role. Your primary role is as a guiding influence, something that they would not get from their group of friends at school. And lastly, let them make mistakes. You won't be able to keep them from making mistakes, and many times those experiences will teach them something. Learning from observation or instruction could only really go so far, and eventually there will be a time in life that you won't be able to help them. I mean, most of us wish our parents could be around forever, but unfortunately that isn't the case. And at some point they will have to be able to stand their own and take care of themselves. Give them the tools and the confidence while you can to take care of themselves when you can no longer do it for them. Maybe even when in old age they might have to take care of you. Let them learn to understand consequences on their own. Of course, that does not mean knowingly letting them get seriously hurt or injured, but give them some kind of space, some kind of freedom to learn things naturally, as they would if you weren't around to teach them. So next, in the following video, we'll talk about discipline versus punishment.